Oh. Hush, hush, hush. You are not yet fit to rise.
Who?
Sleep, sleep.
Whilst Krasus desperately tried to fight against the mysterious lady's suggestion to sleep, he was absolutely buggered. So he failed and passed out, and immediately started to dream. Dreams of flight and fancy. He was a dragon again, only he had a giant plumage, like some kind of fruity bird. However, simply thrilled to be aloft once more, the pale mage thought that was probably nothing to worry about. Eventually, though, someone shook Krasus, stirring him grudgingly awake.
I am with you, druid. Praise Elune. I feared you would sleep forever.
Despite his initial frustration, as Krasus' mind cleared through consciousness, he realised that his night elf companion had quite possibly just done him a tremendous favour.
I imagine I was supposed to sleep until our host returned.
Krasus then observed his surroundings, a little bit taken aback by how bloody weird they were. This room was an extremely odd construction, formed of branches, vines, and other things, packed together with dirt. Rounded at the ceiling, the only entrance appearing to be a hole at one side. Looking down, Krasus noted his bed was made of the same stuff, twigs and dirt, softened by a draping of fresh leaves woven together. And on a small table made from a stump of a tree, a bowl carved from a ridiculously large nut held fresh water, which he had a quick sip of before continuing his inspection. Krasus' eyes then narrowed as he saw that what he had initially taken for an inner wall was actually a passage. The curve of the room had made it impossible to see the corridor without standing directly in front of it.
It goes for quite a long distance. I found another much larger chamber, and from there I went on and found two more. Even there I came across more corridors, at which point I decided it was probably best to turn back and return to you. A wise thing.
Krasus' sharp ears had picked up strange sounds from without. Fluttering, coos, and tweets and caws and hoots. Birds. A buttload of different types of birds. And so, curiosity piqued, the pale mage rose and walked towards the opening, the bird calls growing more intense and more varied with each step, almost as if every type of bird in the world was just hanging about outside. And it was at that point that Krasus finally recognised his surroundings for what they actually were. A nest. And poking his head out through the entrance to said nest, he then saw that yes, every species of bird was indeed outside. He saw doves, robins, cardinals, terns, mockingbirds, tits. Even the birds that prey on other birds sat happily, singing, content, not preying on other birds. Gazing above, Krasus then discovered that this nest was situated within the foliage of an incredibly huge tree, one which was filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of these astounding structures, spread throughout the branches as far as the eye could see. Quick estimation by the wizard measured that there were enough to house the entire Night Elven army, mounts and refugees and all. And then, Krasus made the mistake of looking down. You wouldn't expect a dragon to suffer from vertigo, but...
Master Krasus!
Malfurion yelled, pulling the pale mage back inside to safety.
Sorry. I should have warned you. It's all right. Thanks. I had to throw myself back when I first looked. I was afraid I'd be blown away by the wind. That's kind of hilarious, Malfurion.
Now that he was better prepared, Krasus then returned to the opening, gripping the sides this time before peering down again. The tree extended down, seemingly forever. All the wizard could see were branches jutting out everywhere, and more tits.
You can't see the ground either, can you? No, I cannot. I've never heard of a tree so vast, so huge. I have Gahania, the mother tree. It is the place of all winged creatures, separate from but a part of the mortal world, in a manner akin to the Emerald Dream. It is the tallest tree atop the tallest peak. Its fruit carries the seeds of all Azerothian trees, and it is the home of our host, the Demigoddess, Aviana.
Right on cue, a white form flying in their general direction then caught the wizard's attention,
and I believe she comes to grace us now.
The winged figure grew rapidly in size as it approached, eventually coalescing into a massive white peregrine falcon. Krasus urging the druid back from the entrance to allow the being space. Fluttering through, a transformation then overtook the creature, its wings shrinking, body reshaping into that of a night elf or human, tail shifting into the trailing end of a gossamer white gown, the elegant being then eyeing the pair and frowning. I can hear beeping. Can you hear beeping? That's the only problem with this new place that I've moved into, is constant heavy goods vehicles driving round this really tight corner. I don't know why they keep coming this way. The elegant being then eyeing the pair and frowning.
Awake! Awake you are. You should rest. Rest.
Krasus then bowed.
I am grateful for your hospitality, mistress, but I am well enough to continue on now.
Cocking her head to one side in a swift twitchy motion, Aviana insisted.
No. No. Too soon. Too soon. Please, sit.
The duo looked around and saw that 2 chairs made of the same old dirt and twigs waited behind them. So they did as they were told and sat down.
So, you are the Mother of Flight, the Lady of the Birds, are you not?
Aviana I am, if that is what you mean. And you are one of mine. One of mine, I think.
The thrill of the sky is known to me, yes, mistress. I owe my soul to Alexstrasza.
Ah, dear, dear Alexstrasza. It is long since we spoke. We must do so.
Krasus didn't bother to point out that this was probably not the best time for visits. Despite her pleasant and casual demeanour, he had no doubt that Aviana knew exactly what was going on in the world, and had in fact been conferring with the other demigods on how to deal with the Burning Legion. Aviana then glanced towards Malfurion.
Now you, on the other wing, you are one of Zin-Azshari's?
I am Malfurion.
Of course you are. Zin-Azshari speaks well of you, youngling.
That recognition caused Malfurion's face cheeks to darken.
Mistress, how do we come to be here?
Why, you chose to come here. Of course.
Krasus's brow furrowed. The last thing he remembered was cheesing it through a portal 2 videos ago.
Sorry?
Aviana then raised one hand, a multicoloured songbird flittering in and alighting atop it.
Only those who truly desire to come here do. This one found you and your friend lying among the branches. There was also much scattered flesh of a very large and tasty worm. The children will feast for some time on it.
Malfurion barely contained a bleh, and ignoring his own distaste, Krasus said,
I'm afraid there was a bit of an error, mistress. I did not mean to come here. I cast a spell that went a bit skewiff.
At that, Aviana formed a sly smile.
So you do not wish to fly again? To fly again?
I wish for nothing more.
Then that is in part why you ended up here.
The Dragon Mage mulled that over for a moment. Perhaps his continual longing to be what he truly was had influenced his spellcasting.
But there's nothing you can do for me.
So sad. Perhaps I can. If you truly insist on departing.
I do.
Very well.
From within the plumage beneath her left wing, the Demigoddess then plucked one feather, the sky deity handing it to Krasus, who took the gift with reverence and studied it.
Place it upon your chest.
Hesitating for a brief moment, Krasus then pulled open the top of his robe, Malfurion gasping at what he saw.
So you are indeed one of mine.
Oops. He'd forgotten about Corielstra's scale fused to his chest. Oh well, guess that cat was out of the bag now.
Will your plan still work?
But of course. More so now. More so.
Placing the feather against a part of his chest that was not covered by dragon scale, Krasus then waited, the downy piece adhering to him much as the scale had. Silky tendrils spreading from the feather and growing, snaking across his torso. Again, Malfurion gasped, but Krasus shook his head. He understood what Aviana intended, and welcomed it. The Dragon Mage's heart then began to pulse at twice the normal rate, and he felt the sudden urge to go leaping out of the nest.
Not yet. You will know when it is done.
A peculiar sensation then spread across Krasus's upper back and shoulder blades, his garments shifting and ripping. Something was growing back there, and even before that something had begun to define itself, Krasus knew what it was. Huge, expansive white wings. Krasus instinctively flexed them and found they were as responsive as his own.
They are yours for this journey.
What about him?
He is not born to the sky, With learning, yes, with learning. Too long, though. You must carry him.
In his current form, looking like some kind of Sephiroth knob, Krasus did not believe himself to have the strength to do such a thing over such a long trek. However, his concern did not seem to bother Aviana at all. She simply plucked a single strand from another feather, brought it to her lips, and blew it towards the druid, with Malfurion, looking ever so slightly uncertain, standing his ground, whilst the thing drifted towards him, touching his shoulder and sticking to it. The druid then shook, a look of great satisfaction appearing on his face.
I feel...
Out of nowhere, he then jumped and nearly struck the ceiling.
You will now find him no burden at all.
No burden at all. Krasus suddenly found himself getting choked up, a tear slipping from one eye.
Thank you.
No need for gratitude. No need. Away you will fly, to that high branch, then the right. Through the clouds, and descend. Well on your way you will be.
Krasus patiently nodded through Aviana's confusing directions.
The feather. How will I...
Hush. It will know.
Aviana then turned toward Malfurion.
Your Shandow wishes you to know that he is with you. We do not ignore the danger. Our will is strong.
Thank you. That gives me hope. Gives all of us hope. If only we could do something about the dragons.
Yes, even we do not understand what goes on there.
The duo eyed each other.
They have a plan, but there is a threat to...
And the pale mage suddenly felt like his mouth was full of cotton. His tongue twisted. Aviana waited for more, but Krasus could give her absolutely nothing. And seeing his silence as some hesitation of his own, the Demigoddess gave him a respectful nod and bid the two farewell. Krasus then took the druid under the shoulders.
Are you comfortable? Probably not until my feet return to the ground, but I'll be good enough until then, Master Krasus.
Go then. And when the end of your days comes, youngling, I will have your nest here ready. At
that, Krasus paled even further than he already was, realizing just now why all of the different birds outside were living in utter harmony with each other. Because they were not living at all. They were their spirits, brought up here by the Demigoddess. This was bird heaven.
Go now. You shall return soon enough.
Well, that was bloody unnerving.
Thank you again, Mistress.
Krasus then rose up, adjusting his grip on Malfurion accordingly, and off they went. And after a few moments, and once Aviana was definitely out of earshot...
What did she mean by that? That you would return? We must all die someday, Malfurion. You mean all of that? All of it.
Krasus refused to say any more, but he dared one last look back at the nest, eyes widening at the sight. For the first time, he saw the structure in all of its immensity, and then they entered the clouds. Meanwhile, Chapter 16 cometh. The Night Elven host managed to push beyond Suramar through sheer blood, sweat and tears, but, no longer able to stand the very same repeated stalemate that followed, Ravencrest summoned both Rhonin and Illidan.
Magic appears to be the deciding factor in this. Can you do anything? There's something that may be possible, but I'll need the full cooperation of the Moon Guard to put it into effect. It might backfire though. I doubt he can make things worse. Well, Illidan, I eagerly await to aid Master Rhonin in whatever spell he crafts, my lord.
Rhonin kept his expression neutral. Illidan was going to need to maintain control and not try to build on the spell that Rhonin planned to cast. Otherwise, everything was going to go to shit.
We're going to draw upon the well as deeply as we can. I want to try something that the wizards of my homeland discussed doing, but were unable to try before things fell apart. Will it be complicated, Master Rhonin? No. They spend weeks preparing it, but I have their work memorized. Should only take us a few hours.
Again, the human hoped that the young night elf would be able to follow orders rather than attempt to turn the spell into something of his own rash design. More and more, Illidan appeared absolutely incapable of not being the centre of any and all casting. He lived for his sorcery and cared not at all what it took from his fellows. Bloody hell, Rhonin thought. He almost sounds like a demon or something. However, Rhonin felt that he could keep Illidan under control. He would have to, with the knowledge that the outcome of this war and the future of this world were at stake. There was no other choice, really. Anywho, not wanting the soldiers to be completely defenseless against the Legion's warlocks, Rhonin asked Illidan to pick out a dozen of his best from his ranks and leave the rest to see to the battle. And after that,
I also need you to guide me, Illidan. I need you to bring me to the well itself. Of course.
The Night Elf stood eagerly aside his mentor, both reaching out with their minds to the source of all Night Elven magic. Off in the distance, a horn sounded, signifying that Lord Ravencrest was setting up everything in preparation for Rhonin's grand spell, or grand catastrophe, depending on how things went. The two spellcasters then linked thoughts, Rhonin feeling Illidan's wild nature and trying to keep it in check, Illidan's mind drawing the wizard forward, the landscape itself ripping past as he and his companion sought to touch the well. Endless rows of demons followed by miles of ravaged land passing within a single second. Zin-Azshari rose up, the grand palace of Queen Ashara dominating next, and finally the black waters of the well came into view, and its power absolutely staggered Rhonin. He had assumed he had sensed it well enough, simply by drawing upon the part of it which permeated all Kalimdor. But nope, the well was such a fount of pure energy that Rhonin knew there and then, if he could command it, he would be a god. Everything Rhonin had dreamed of, back when he'd first taken up the robes of wizardry, now seemed so simple. He could raise up entire cities, or tear them down with a blink of an eye. He could call upon the power of the earth itself, send it crashing down on any who opposed him. He could... Rhonin quickly freed himself of those dark ambitions, a sudden anxiety filling him as he saw the well for what it really was. Pure magical energy, yes, but tainted, corrupted. But it was too late to turn back now. Rhonin had to delve into the well, just this once, and then never touch it in such a manner ever again. Sensing Illidan's impatience and curiosity, the wizard quickly took up the power he needed from the dark depths, retreating successfully from the cursed waters, despite the overwhelming temptation to just let it all bloody engulf him, and within a few moments, the minds of the Night Elf and human had returned to their bodies. And with a link to the well now stronger than ever, Rhonin began to cast his spell, knowing the sooner he finished, the sooner he could be rid of this foul sensation he felt in his soul.
It begins now.
Illidan instantly prepared the Moonguard for the task. What Rhonin fed them, they would send out toward the enemy, multiplying its intensity more than 100-fold. With ease, Rhonin constructed the spell matrix that many of his kin had died working on in Dalaran, briefly thanking their departed souls despite the paradox that none of them would even be born for another 10,000 years. And then, once satisfied with its stability, the wizard unleashed his spell. Initially, Illidan and his Moonguard mentally shook as it reverberated through them. But, to his credit, the young sorcerer kept all of them from buckling. That deep ambition that Rhonin had feared had, in fact, kept the plan together. So, egg on his face, I guess. A ripple of ear-shattering sound then hit the burning legion, with massive demons shrieking, dropping their weapons, frantically trying to shut the sound out, before their heads exploded. I repeat, all across the front, their heads exploded. Night Elven soldiers standing frozen, shaken up by what the hell they'd just witnessed.
Now, Ravencrest! Now!
More horns then sounded, Night Elves shouting, panthers meow roaring, the host advancing unhindered, thanks to the sound wave that continued to cut violently through the demon army, exploding their heads and stuff. However, feeling his body suddenly give up on him, Rhonin then wobbled and collapsed.
I have you, Master Rhonin.
Illidan eased the wizard gently to the ground, looking none the worse for wear himself. In fact, he was the only one that looked absolutely fine.
Did you see it? Did you see what we did? This proves it. There is no power like the well.
Illidan then glanced at something or someone that Rhonin could not see.
The well is the way, brother. Nothing else compares.
As Illidan continued raving toward an absent Malfurion, Rhonin stared in disbelief. Illidan's avarice, his jealousy, was so apparent it bordered on hatred for his own twin. Rhonin's spell had potentially just turned the tide of the entire war. But, as he watched Illidan's intense expression, the wizard couldn't help but worry that he'd inadvertently unleashed something much worse upon the Night Elven race in the process.